Hi crafty friends, welcome back to Paper Moon Journals. In today's video, we're diving into the world of paper crafting with one of my favorite new collections, Spring is in the Air by Graphic 45. I've got something really special to share with you today, a beautiful finished 5x7 landscape-oriented scrapbook mini album. In just a few easy to follow steps, I'll walk you through the entire process of construction and decoration. So grab your tools, let's get comfy, and let's get crafting. In front of you on screen, we're looking at the sample project that I made. These papers were so inspiring, I couldn't wait to cut into them and to make a project. And I actually designed this simple little album to feature these papers, the 5x7 landscape orientation. So it will work great with 4x6 photos or smaller. And I figured that there's room for about 20 photos in here, depending on how you decorate the album. The way I decorate it, there would be room for 20 photos. And it's really simple design. There's just 3 pocket page sections for a total of 6 pages, making it super accessible for beginners. If you've been thinking about getting started and you've been hesitating, this could be the project for you. I also love this album design for another paper collection that's new for Graphic 45. Their Hip Hip Hooray paper collection also has a lot of landscape-oriented 4x6 cut-aparts and journaling cards, so that will really favor this style of mini album as well. With the 3 pages or the 3-page sections for a total of 6 pages, it makes it really accessible and fun. You can make the whole project in an afternoon, which is kind of my favorite scrapbooking style. I can be impatient and I kind of like instant gratification. Not that this is instant, but as compared to a junk journal where I'll spend at least a week working on it and preparing it. This I can do in less than a day, so that's really nice. We've got this top-loading pocket. All of the fun interactive elements are added during the decoration phase. The base album itself is quite simple. I did use some of the die cuts and the chipboard tags and frames to decorate this. I often forget to do that because it seems like the paper collections last longer than the ephemera packs, and eventually you end up with a bunch of the paper available, but none of the extras. And here I've just made like a fake photo, the size of a photo, so you could see how that slides under there and how a photo would look, a 4x6 would look. And again, each one of the pocket pages has a long tag that would look nice for a 3x5 card. The pull-out pocket card is a 4x6, so you'd need a smaller sized photo. And then this last page, I left everything open-ended. I'll show you here so that you could tuck your photo up under the page decorations. And then I used journaling cards and matted cut-aparts on scraps for the ephemera. And I like all the different border strips that were available in this paper collection. Made it so much fun to decorate. I hope you'll stick with me, and we'll get right to the decorating. The next thing we'll do is we'll be cutting into chipboard and the scrapbooking paper to assemble it. I hope you'll stay with me and check it out. And if you do make one, please tag me so I can see what you make. I'd love to see what you come up with. Okay, so here are the draft instructions. As I often do, I make one, I type up the instructions, actually handwrite instructions while I'm making it, then I type up from my handwritten notes, which are maybe a bit of a mess, and I do often forget to fill out some of the information while I'm working. I'll forget to stop and make note of things. So later, then I type up all the instructions before we do the video here, and then I actually give the instructions a trial run during the video and make any adjustments and changes as necessary to my draft copy of the instructions. So you can snap a photo shot of the, back it up, pause the video and snap a screenshot or a picture of the instructions, or I'll make the PDF available in my Etsy shop for a few dollars. And then that's kind of nice. Then you don't have to make note of all the instructions. But if that's not in the budget for you, that's not a problem, because I'll put all of the measurements up on screen. Speaking of on screen, I have cut 2 5x7 and one 5 by 2 inch piece from chipboard. And then from my 12 by 12 of scrapbooking paper, I cut off 4.5 inches from the top of the paper and then 2.5 inches off the side of the paper. And I need to start with a full glue container at every video, and I'm doing that here. I left it in the video because I was so proud. I remembered to fill my glue at the start of the video. So the first thing I like to do is to start with gluing the sheets end from end, and I didn't mention it, but I had both sheets stacked together, the 2 sheets to start, when I was removing the pieces from the top and bottom. Those 2.5 inch pieces will be perfect glued shut into a tag top punch. Here's where I realized I forgot to cut down my spine piece. I'm a little confused. I'm like, wait, I'm not used to making landscape. So let me go cut that. And there we go. And then glue them down so that the spine is over the seam where the papers join. Again, I'm using art glitter glue in my little glue dispenser, and then using my bone folder to apply pressure to spread the glue out and to make sure that it's adhered well to the paper. And I'm leaving 1/8 inch gap between the chipboard sections and using the scrap of offcut chipboard like a ruler to help me line up the pieces to make sure that they're straight. Especially with the landscape orientation, it's more important. If your head, if it's at a slight angle, it'll be more noticeable than in a portrait-oriented project. I saw Debbie at Project 39 Mini Albums marks the edges of her chipboard this way by running her bone folder around the edge of the chipboard from the back side. I loved that idea as soon as I saw it, and now I'm incorporating that into my journal covers. It's not the only thing I've picked up from Debbie too, but it's the latest tip that I picked up. Oh, here's the other thing, is I've just started chopping off my corners. As long as I leave 1/8 of an inch gap or enough of a gap from the edge of the chipboard, there's no chipboard hanging out, and I like the way she does that. Makes it easier. So, yep, I'm copying her there as well. Thank you, Debbie. I hope you're watching. Okay, so it makes it a lot easier to wrap the paper really snug to the border of the chipboard. And I'm running just a little line of glue along the side of the chipboard. Again, thank you, Debbie, for that little tip. I didn't used to do that. I saw the idea. I loved it. I've seen that you do that before and just hadn't incorporated it. But since I'm using all your good ideas, why leave that one out? So here we go. I'm out of my 2-inch double-sided tape. Scrapbook.com is all out, and it has been for months, for at least 3 months. I went ahead and ordered some score tape, but it costs like twice as much for the score tape brand. And then now I'm too stingy to use it. It actually, my new roll has come, and I'm too stingy to use it. That's what's happened. I was like, do you really need 2-inch tape right here? Maybe you don't. Maybe the 1-inch tape is good enough, I decided. And then a little bit of glue to get us to the end. And some patience this time, since I've added some glue into the mix. And just working everything down, snug to the edge of the paper. And just adding a little bit of glue along the end there. I'm going to do both sides, so I don't have to remember. This is a little bit new for my process. And then just using that ink pad to help me rip the edge of the tape there. Oops. Need to apply a sufficient pressure to get it to rip. I didn't bring over my, nonstick scissors yet. But they come over here eventually. It's nice that my filming area isn't under the window, which is a shame. But the nice thing about it is it's right next to my crafting area. It is like 2 steps away from where I'm filming now, instead of on the other side of the house. So that is nice. When I'm missing things, I don't mind just grabbing and getting them. It also is much easier to clean up and put everything away later. All right, we're ready to start on the hinge. And I'm going to take one of those 4.5-inch wide pieces that we removed at the beginning, and I'll be cutting that to 7 inches long. So we need a 4.5 by 7-inch piece. Making the hinge is really easy, especially because we only need 3 hinges for this project. So I scored it 1.5 and 5.5, and then just every 1/2 inch in between the 2 score marks that I started with. So I don't have to make note of every marking, just every 1/2 inch. And then I'm pinching together my pairs of 1/2 inch, starting at the front and back, and then pinching together the middle one so that I have 3 hinges together. Isn't that easy? You should give it a try. If you haven't given it a try, I really hope that you will. I have admitted and will continue that I watched Debbie at Project 39 mini albums and Scrap and Create. I know Daphne, some of her videos there, for years before I was brave enough to give it a try. And now I feel silly because I thought it was going to be so difficult and require perfection is what I thought. I thought, oh, junk journaling, fine, but scrapbooking, those ladies are serious and you need to be perfect. That's what I would have said. And then now, knowing how not perfect I am, how I get things crooked and, I'm just so not perfect. And my albums still look beautiful when they're all done and decorated. Any tiny minor imperfections just add personality to your project. Nobody cares or notices, including you. You'll forget all about it, really. Okay, so I've added double-sided tape to both sides of every hinge, and then I'm mitering the corners off to make it easier to slip down our page sleeves over the top. If you're making this for some other project and you're not looking to decorate, I actually make the pages later because we're making this in the order I made the original, which is where I started assembling it. Then I started decorating the cover to get the cover to a point that I'm really excited about the project. And then I went back and I made the pages from some scraps that were, large page scraps left over from making the cover. So that's the order we're going to make it here. So if you're not, again, if you're just going to make this for some other project, then you'll want to jump ahead. I'll put on screen during editing where the page construction starts because I make the page out of colored scraps instead of manila paper for this project. This album does work really well with the Hip Hip Hooray papers. And since filming this, I have already made another base mini album blank with the in anticipation of using the Hip Hip Hooray papers to decorate it. So I've covered the entire back of our hinge mechanism with double-sided tape so that I can work that into the grooves and get this stuck down nicely. You use the adhesive of your choice. If you prefer glue, go ahead and use that. If you have something else that you use that. Whatever it is that you use to stick things down that's your favorite, use that here. This is going to hold all our pages and the photos and everything. We do not want this popping back up out of the book later. Of course, we're going to pin those flaps down during the decorating. The flap of the hinge that overlaps. Let's work that carefully into the seam, trying not to punch a hole into the paper while you're doing so. And we want it to be nice and neat and clean so that when the book is open and closed, it's not buckling and doesn't look weird. Okay, I think we have it, and we are ready to start with the decorating. Good, I'm using the Spring is in the Air papers to decorate. Let me look at my instructions to see what size we're going to need. Okay, so I'll be using these to help mat and decorate the cover. And on the instructions, we're kind of jumping down to the decoration cut list. We'll also need all of the cut-aparts for this project. So let's go ahead and get these cut out first so we can pick out our cover piece and then cut out the pieces we need to mat. Originally, I was going to pause the camera and then I thought I would bring you along for I need to remember to use my paper cutter. This one should be designated for chipboard. The blade is so dull, it makes a really rough mess of the edge of my paper, so that I feel the need to trim back off the edge of everything cut with this cutter. I bought myself a new nice paper trimmer for clean paper edges, and I do remember to use it at some point during this project. I think I get frustrated with all the trimming of those ugly edges, and that's when I remember to grab my nice paper trimmer. Should have got it out sooner though, because it would be better for trimming these. I'm not sure where I want to trim the border, and actually I do make a little faux pas when I'm trimming it, because I don't end up with the same size border piece that I used on the sample project. So we just pick a different strip for the spine of our Scrapbook Mini album. It should have had a row of bunnies across there, but I forget. I think I probably should have just cut across the bottom of the postage stamps, or maybe across that pink strip. But nevertheless, this is what happens for our project and what we'll be using. The border strips are fun. You can cut them apart in wider, more narrow strips. There's decisions to be made there. So when I'm cutting that one, that's where I realized, but that's fine. Our spine is only 2 inches, so I need a piece that's less than 2 inches for the spine. Next, I'm getting out the cut apart that we're going to use for the cover. I think the spring in the air is cute, but it's already on a green background, and ours, we're adding green for the base, so we'll just stick with the same cute little cut apart with the bunny and the flowers that I used on the original project. I do like to do the same project 2 different ways, so I really struggle to same. Okay, I've got my Diet Coke, keeping me going both during crafting and during the editing voiceover. Not sponsored, of course. Okay. The green is the color that I chose to be most of the base. If you don't want, and later I was like, green isn't, I like green. It's not really my favorite color. And I wondered why I leaned into the green so hard, why I didn't pick one of the pretty blue colors and make it blue with blue with blue. That would be lovely. So if you want to copy me, go ahead and use the green, or don't. If you have the patterns in solids, or you have some other scrapbooking paper collections that coordinate with this, then go ahead. I think that unicorn paper collection from Hobby Lobby is magical, like a unicorn, and it seems to have colors that go with every paper collection. I'm out of all of the pink colors that would look nice with this. I've already used up from my pad all of the pinks. I'm down to some teal greens, I think. Anyways, whatever. So because of my lousy trimmer, I'm kind of trimming the rough edge off of all of my pieces. But I've cut down from the decoration cut list 2 6 7/8 by 4 7/8 pieces out of green for the front and back cover. And then for the spine, we need a piece that's 1 7/8 by 4 7/8. In the green, I'm inking up the edge using this beautiful dark blue color from Graphic 45 inks. I don't know if they're still selling those. I bought 2 of each color when they first came out. Well, I bought 1 set of each color and was so excited. And then at one point, the ink pads went on sale, so I just went ahead and bought a second set. I love them. They're really rich, deep colors, and of course coordinate beautifully with the Graphic 45 papers. So let's lay these out and dry fit them. Make sure that there weren't any errors at the cutter, and clear a little bit of room. I love my new phone tripod that I use. It has an arm that reaches out across the desk. I forgot, it's a spring-loaded arm that's adjustable. Okay, I also wanted to back that main piece onto some chipboard. So I glued down the green pieces and then backed that 4x6 cut apart onto some chipboard. And now we're moving on. I think I actually reversed the light blue and the dark blue in the order from the instructions. I have 6.5 by 4.5 inches in the light blue, and then 6.25 by 4.25 in the dark blue, and then layered up together with our 4x6 cut apart. That should look great. I think I did make some changes to the measurements during filming. I started with bigger pieces. So I'm going to end up cutting this down and re-inking it. So again, we're going to dry fit it, and that's where I'm like, ooh, that is not what I want. So I'll go back, I'll trim that down to the measurements that I've just given you, and let me put those on screen for you. And once we get all of our pieces cut, we're ready to start layering them up and gluing them down onto the cover. I don't always work this way, but I often do. I think it's fun to get the cover at least decorated enough that I'm excited about finishing it and don't want to stop. And I like to kind of move back and forth to what I consider is the fun part, and then back to the construction that's a little bit more of the work part. But I got all of those glued down off camera, and then I've gotten out pieces to start decorating the back cover. So I'm using 6.5 by 4.5 cut from the pink. And then of course we already put down the green when we were doing the front. I'll ink up the edges of this and get it glued down. Using my bone folder to make sure it's down and smooth out the glue so there's not little stripes of glue under there, hopefully. And then glue down the cut apart that says spring is in the air onto the back cover, or whichever one you choose. I just love this album design, and again, it's really suitable for this paper collection and the birthday themed one with the little forest animals, the hip hip hooray. I think that is so cute. This could be really cute on the spine, but it's just not, I didn't want to have half of a postage stamp in there, so thinking maybe this one looks like a good fit. We will cut this to size. We need it 1.5 inches wide by 4.5 inches long. Our border strip pieces, or at least that's the size that I'm using. If you have some other plan, that's great. You do you. I actually had cut it bigger, and so you'll see me trimming and making adjustments and notes on the paper, but I'm telling you the correct size with my voice and on screen. I already know what it's supposed to be by the time I'm doing the voiceover. Continuing on, we're ready to start making the page pockets, the 3 page pockets that actually front and back make a total of 6 pages if you numbered the pages like you would a book. And why wouldn't you? You know, when we're discussing the number of pages. And when I go through decorating them, they're called pages 1 through 6. So that's good. So for the pages, we need 3 6.5 by 9.5 inch pieces. You could make them from manila if you wanted. I did for my next album, just because I wanted it pre-made before I even started. And then to use in the listing for the PDF, I like to have a blank album in there. So I'm using the scraps from the pieces I used for the cover, the dark blue, the light blue, and the pink. Again, you can make your pages out of whatever you want. And then we'll be scoring those with the scoring tool. Let me cut ahead to after I've made room and cleared off my desk. All right, to make the page pockets, the sleeves that will fit onto the hinge to make our pages, we score them at 4.5 and 9 inches. And I'll do that with all 3 pieces here. And then you can either glue them shut with the flap hinge on the outside or on the inside. For these, I think I did them on the outside. It makes it easier to get things in and out of the pocket. That's not really a problem with these. So on the next one I made, I actually did the flap on the inside so that from the outside there's no seam of the flap. But on the portrait-oriented ones, it does make it a lot easier to get it in the things in and out of the pocket. It won't catch on the lip of that. But these, the pocket is so long, and I've given us so much room with our card. We have plenty of room to get that in the pocket. It just actually looks neater and cleaner with that on the inside. But again, you can do like I'm doing here, where I add the adhesive to the inside of the flap and then glue it down around the outside. Or you add the adhesive to the outside of the flap and then glue the outer piece over the top of it, hiding it. Okay, so here is where it gets real. You you want to get this on here straight. Again, in the portrait oriented, if they're slightly crooked, it's not that big of a deal. And I don't know if you notice, this is on here crooked. It bothers me. But the last time I got one on crooked and tried to pick it off, I destroyed the whole page. And, you know, I'm pretty deep into filming here already. And yeah, so I'm like, okay, it's a little crooked, but that's fine. I'll do better the next time. So I, I get it on. I've never had so much trouble. I think it's the landscape one. So I get it on there, and I found that if I just kind of put my finger on it in the middle so that it's kind of stuck in the middle, that then I can twist it and get it on straight. I also don't want it to have the next page on so straight that it's obvious the other pages are crooked. So yeah, but again, when it's all decorated and everything, I totally forgot that this happened. It looks beautiful. It's so busy and distracting, and there's plenty of room inside the cover. It's not like the pages stick out of the cover or anything like that. And as I said before, when I said I'm not perfect, here we go. Here's a great example of how imperfect I am. So I've got my little cut aparts out. That's the only one we don't use, is that vertical one. And I'm looking for, yes, the one that says postcard. That's the one that we want. And then behind that, we will want to mat that with 6 3/4 by 4 3/4 dark blue. I actually chose a sheet from the main paper collection that I didn't touch at all in the first project. I thought this was a really pretty print and decided I was going to use it this time. That sheet is called Blossom by Blossom, so I cut that to size, and then we'll be dry fitting that inside our cover with our postcard piece to see how we like that. And then last time I used a chipboard frame with a chipboard tag that slid inside of it, and we'll be doing the same thing this time. So I just want to look and see if there's room for the tag to fit behind there with some foam tape. So I'll be using foam tape that I'll be cutting into narrow strips. Let me go get that and show you. I've got my nonstick scissors out. So I'm going to cut these in as narrow strips as I can and as many of them as I can get on here. And use those to decorate our project. I want it super skinny so that the little tag slides in and out easily. Let me just cut the excess off. Grab another. I'm wishing they were all as skinny as that first one. I got nice and thin. Cut that down. Oh, yep, we've got plenty of room. Let's get this last one on here. So the tag should pretty freely slide in and out. You could also put a photo on that and then use that to slide your own little photo in and out of the pocket of the window, the little frame. So this is all ready to get glued down, and we'll be starting on page 1 next. Why don't we cut to that? This is kind of a long video already. Let's skip this and cut ahead to page 1. Actually, on second thought, we need to add some ribbon to our little tag. So I'm using seam binding here since that will smash flatter than regular ribbons. It'll keep things more flat. And then I also had a die cut decorating the inside of the front cover that was glued down open-ended so things could tuck underneath it. And I think we should do that again. Let me get a die cut out. It's from the ephemera pack. The little bunny would be cute. That's what I did last time. I'm coveting the little bunnies. I like this one that includes a bunny and flowers, and I think we should raise that up on some of our foam tape and make that easier to tuck behind. Yeah, I wanted to make sure it doesn't fit on the spine. I wish one of the die cuts looked nice on the spine. I had a cute little vertical bunny to put on there, but none of them were the right shape or size. I'm just going to use my last couple strips, or a couple more strips of that foam tape. That looks really cute. Let me know what you think. If you like where we're at, I love where we're at so far. And then I won't add any dimensional decoration like paper flowers or things like that until later. Page 1 is super simple. We just used 2 of the chipboard pieces glued down to create a frame for one of the journaling cards that I tuck in there. The journaling card, or ideally one of your 4x6 photos, and this journaling card is just a placeholder so that you see how, or you could also put your photo on one of the sides of the journaling card and then use that to tuck your photo. You could paste a photo down and glue a photo to one side of the journaling card. You know, there's a couple different ways that you could use this pocket, but I love making I think we do this a couple times where I make little tuck spots like this for the journaling cards. I think it looks really cute. So I'm just going to add glue to the bottom of the strip that's going on the bottom and the right edge to the chipboard piece that's going on the right edge. Once that's done, we're ready to move on to page 2. After a sip of my Diet Coke. And page 2, we have a border strip that we use glued down in a U shape to make a pocket and tuck some ephemera in it. So see, also very simple and beginner friendly. Very beginner friendly, this project. I don't know if my project's too beginner friendly, not interesting enough. Should I make them more elaborate? I don't know. I love this project and how it came out. But maybe I'll do something more elaborate with the Hip Hip Hooray version of the same mini album. We'll make it more exciting. Okay, so I just wanted to look back at the original project to see which pieces of ephemera I used. And it was this journaling card, The Spring is Sprung, and then a cut apart that will back on one of the scraps that we have left over. And around the corners, I think that looks nice. Inking the edges would have looked nice too. Doesn't look like that's going to happen. All right, so here's some of my larger scraps from making the cover. And I like this light blue. And we'll be cutting that to size 4 by 4 3/4. We are now done with page 1 and ready to move on to page 2. Page 2 also involves a border strip, and I'm busy chatting with my daughter and listening to the TV show that we're watching and gossiping about that, and I totally forget and start to glue it down in the wrong spot. But this is supposed to be a belly band across the center, and ideally that little strip that I cut off would be used across the bottom to help stopper things from falling out of the bottom of the pocket. But that's not what happens because I'm busy being chatty and everything and just go off and do my own thing here. You'll see in just a second. So there's the strip that should have gone across the bottom. Not that it does necessarily stop things from coming out. And there I am gluing it down in a U shape. Uh-oh. No, no, no. Again, good news is looks fine when I'm all done. Glue dries clear. I totally forgot that this even happened and was just happy with the outcome. So it will be fine. Then with the cut apart, with the pink background and the 3 bunnies on it, I really like that on the belly band, but I felt like it was needed some extra sturdiness, the one that I made previously. So again, from that large scrap, I just backed this onto a large scrap. I think you could see I just held it up there the size I wanted and cut it out, and then added some glue to the back. I used my fingers on either side to mark where the glue was on the back in my mind before pressing it down so that I don't glue this shut to the page. It does get stuck a little bit because the glue hadn't fully dried from the U shape on the bottom. But let me update my notes. Again, what's available in my Etsy shop has already been updated. It'll have a nice border. And we're ready to cut out another 4 by 4 3/4 inch piece to back one of the cut aparts to go in our belly band. It's optional, but I do like to add eyelet and ribbon bows whenever I get the chance. It just adds my touch. It's kind of my style. If it didn't have a little bow on it, would it even be my project? I don't know. Anyways, I'm sure it would, of course. I'm just being silly. This is a long video, and it's not surprising. Surprising that that my chatter has gotten silly at this point. I'm still working on cropping out as much as I can, hoping to get it down to an hour. I started with 3 hours worth of footage. Moving on to page 4, here's another forgotten mistake, was that I accidentally cut this piece sideways. So the flowers, which are oriented, very directional, are going sideways. And when I dry fit it on the page, I'm not sure I like the size. Is that part of it or isn't it? I'm like, oh, what are all these tags already doing in the pockets? So I want to at least dry fit the piece from my instructions before I go cutting another piece. And sure enough, it doesn't fit quite right. It's too small. So I'll come back with the correct instructions and a totally different piece of paper here. All right, here we are. So what we want is we want 6 3/8 by 8.5 inches. I'll end up trimming down the piece on screen, but the piece that you want, the final 6 3/8 by 8.5, fits both the cut apart perfectly and on the page. So this is going to be a flip up that's also a pocket behind it. We'll be gluing it down in a U-shaped pocket, and I want everything framed nicely so that we have 2 separate sections inside that can have 2 different 4x6 photos on it, or 3x5, whatever. My goal was to get a lot of 4x6s in here. There are some smaller sizes. When I referenced at the beginning, I think I would get at least 20 pictures in here. Really, the way I like to crop things down, I would likely get quite a bit more in there. But just presuming that the 4x6s were so perfectly framed in the original photo with no dog scratching itself in the background or something. I don't know. Just a lot of times it seems like there's a lot of extra in the photo. What I really want is, say, a picture of my mom looking cute. Who cares about the neighbor's house on either side or whatever? Like, let's just zoom in on my mom in the photo and crop that down. And then depending on the film size used, the photo size would be different back in the day. So I'm just measuring things and making note on the instructions. So again, the one that's the final PDF available in the shop is correct, and the one I'm telling you and that is popped up on screen is correct. All right, I've gotten that glued down, and I've taken a narrow pink border strip and am adding it to the top of the flap up. Perfect spot for a photo there. And then also there's a great spot for one below where we're going to mat it with another color and then also add die cut cut-aparts. Isn't that busy? So we're using this page here. The page is called Scattered Sunshine, and you cut it to 6 inches wide by 3 3/4, and that is clearly not 3 3/4 inches wide. So let me give that a second try. Again, I forgot how many mistakes I make during projects like this until I'm editing and filming. So I'll meet you back here with the correct size. Okay, I've got myself cut the correct piece, and from the border strip that you can see sitting off to the left, I cut out the postage stamp and the little butterfly. I'm giving the ticket punch corners to make that more interesting, and we're ready to glue this together, and we will be done with this page, page 5. Right? Or is this page 6? Where are we? No, we're on page 4. This is the flap up on page 4, Amy. All right. And then the other thing I did was I made this little manila cut apart that can tuck underneath. And I'm just taking a scrap that happened to already be exactly the right length and cutting it to the correct width. I have no idea what size that is. I'm thinking it's probably a 4x6, and that's why I didn't put it down. I like the 4x6 cut-aparts. I make them so 4x6 cut-aparts fit in there. I'm presuming that's what it was. I didn't bother to write it down anywhere. Okay, and then for page 5, I took a scrap, just like I'm doing here, of one of them that just isn't quite wide enough to cover the whole page, thus the left loading pocket that we're going to be doing on this page. I think the scrap I'm using was about 5 inches wide, and I cut it to 4 1/4 inches tall. And just make adjustment onto the instructions, again, which have already been finalized for you here. Let me skip ahead to where I've already cut both of these pieces to 4 1/4 inches tall. I have glued the piece on the left down completely, or well, I'm not sure if I have or if it's just sitting there loose. And the piece on the right is glued down in a U shape so as to be a left loading pocket. This cut apart, this beautiful day one, we will be backing onto this large pink scrap. But again, you use the scraps that you have to back the things that you need. And I also like this border strip with the butterflies the same way I did it last time. If you look, you can see in the upper left-hand corner of the screen is the reference project. It won't be exactly the same because, no, they haven't been glued down yet. It won't be exactly the same because I'm making slightly different paper choice decisions this time based on scraps. When I'm using scraps to decorate things, the reverse side of things just is different on some of the projects. So here we go. That pattern side looks pretty nice, but with also the things in the pocket being busy, I think we'll keep the pocket simple. And then we'll be decorating the pocket with some die cuts, or at least one die cut. That one could be nice. This is the one I end up using. And let's cut ahead to making the card. Was 4 by 4 3/4 scrap, just like before. I'm using a fancy corner rounder. A regular corner rounder is also nice when you're making these journaling cards. They're also photo mats, I believe, on the reverse side. That stripy side would look really cute with a photo mounted onto the back of it. And again, was included in my photo count. A little 2x3 would look nice. And I wish I had found the die cut butterfly to use as a pullout like I did on the original one. I did later. I'd like to think we're on the home stretch here. We can see the inside of the back cover, and page 6 is all we have left. I'll be using green. Again, I'm mostly just going through my large scraps at this point, or if there aren't any scraps large enough, just grabbing a full sheet. But that piece that I cut in the wrong orientation and creased and everything, we're using the back side of that is what we're doing here. And I'll be cutting it to 6 7/8 by 4 7/8. I will be cutting from Scatter Sunshine Scrap, a page that is 6 1/4 by 4 1/4. And then we'll just be adding border strips to this and some glued down open die cut ephemera. Again, super simple. I think everything in here is just so, I think, achievable for somebody with a beginner skill set. Ooh, wouldn't that look nice for the pocket? But no, I go with this one. But you can do you. Last time in the first one, I used a die cut that had a scalloped border on it, but I don't have that die cut this time. I cut the narrow green strip off the bottom, and then a blue strip, I think, or let's see what I do. Oh, butterflies across the top. I've sped this up a little. I also add a blue bunny border strip to the inside of the back cover, and then I glue down the border strip on the inside of the back cover in a U shape to make what? Another pocket. Yes, we do. Then all we need to do is make the ephemera, and we are on to finishing touches. So obviously, with most of my projects, you can end when the project is completed. You don't have to go back to that finishing touches stage, but I like to. Again, why stop here when you can add more? So on the left-hand side, we're adding some open-ended die cuts. I found another banner type piece to use across the top that is glued down across the top, and a flower for the left-hand side that is only glued on the left-hand side. And that will make it easy to slide a photo in and under there. Let's see, where did our cards go that we already made? We can put those back in now. Again, I used my Crocodile and eyelet as my eyelet setting tool, added eyelets and bows to my cards. Let's add some chipboard elements to the cover. We are on finishing touches now, folks. It is getting real. We are so close to the end. I can almost see it from here. Before I had a chipboard element on the cover. Why don't I go ahead and skip forward to where I've already made some decisions. Okay, I think you can see that I used the Hello die cut. I also used a die cut flower and then that chipboard butterfly on the cover. I'll be using some of the charms and things like that. And you might be wondering, Amy, what about all those page pockets? We didn't make any of the pocket cards or decorate those. Well, now is the time for that. We've had some fun with the decorating. I think that part is so much fun, the decorating. So now we'll get back to the business of making our, what are they called? Pocket cards. So we need, to make the cards themselves, we need 8-inch by 6-inch pieces. I'll be gluing those shut, as I love to do, into 4x6. Page pocket cards, and then using my tag punch to add tabs to the narrow end of each one of those cards, because those will stick in the huge page pockets. On screen, I have found a scrap that is 5 inches wide and cut it to 8.5 into 8 inches tall, so that we can glue that shut so that it's 4 by 5.5. And then I'll be punching a tab and adding that to the top, because this is going into our top loading pocket that we made for page 4. In the printed instructions, I have this included during the page 4 instructions instead of after the fact. I finally printed myself a copy of the official instructions instead of looking at the ones that I used during the video for my voiceover. That should make my job a lot easier and something I could have done sooner. Okay, so I'm gluing that shut to make it nice and sturdy. This is a place where I consider 2 more photos could go. I also want to add a belly band of postage stamps to this, so let me get that and meet you back here. I rounded the corners on my card and I punched all the tabs that I would need with my tab punch. Then I'll be gluing that onto the top of this one because it goes on the top of this photo mat. And then I want to add an eyelet and a bow, or at least some sort of ribbon. And then I'll be adding the postage stamp cut apart. You can actually see it on top, just underneath that piece of ribbon. And that will be getting glued on here as a belly band where something can tuck underneath it. But since it slides in and out of the pocket, unless what's tucked under there is glued down, I thought it might get lost inside the pocket, and I didn't want anyone to have to hassle with that. Just making sure it fits. It does. Here's our little belly band piece and our last few cut aparts and journaling cards that we'll be using. That little one with the butterfly and the rose, I would like to have backed on a scrap, but I actually forget about it until I'm filming the flip through at the very end. I discover it and then put it away. I'm just trimming everything down when I'm cutting them apart from the main cut apart page. I'm not worrying about perfect borders, knowing that I will come back with my scissors and crop everything down. So a couple of the things in the pockets are just straight up journaling cards. And that glue we filled at the beginning, it's really fighting me now. There's just a little bit left at the bottom, and the glue is really challenging me now at the end of the project. So it takes almost precisely 1 full bottle of this glue to make the project, in case you were tracking that. That cut apart with the pink border actually goes inside the front page. I don't think I realized that until later either. Maybe this is the point. Let's see. We've got both of them side by side so we can compare them, and you can see which one is your favorite. I think I'll round the corners on this one, the one we made. I didn't round the corners on the original one, though. Interesting decision. And then you can see I added die cut butterfly to the flip up as well with the little wings flapping. I just glued it down in the middle. And it's open-ended just like before. We can add the cut aparts in the same places I did before. This is really fun. I like seeing them together like this. I hope you do as well. Okay, so now we'll be making the cards that go in our page pockets and decorating those. I'm making mine out of the ivory colored base paper from the base card. It's 65 pound, which is why I double everything over, because it's so lightweight. It does not make a sturdy card at all. So I'll be making 3 of those page pocket cards, 3 8 by 6 inch pieces, and then, gluing those shut to make them nice and sturdy into 4 by 6s. I've sped this up quite a bit where I'm adding the tabs, and then I'm actually putting them underneath the project to keep them from curling up while they dry. Those cards that we made for the pocket, putting them under something heavier for longer would be even better, but we're gonna skip right to the decorating part. This is the paper that I used last time, and we'll be using that again, but you can use whatever paper you want. We want to cut 6 from Spring is in the Air that are 5 3/4 inches wide by 3 3/4 inches tall. I've sped that up quite a bit to hopefully keep it from being boring. I picked the 3 that I thought were the best for the fronts with the main paper collection image where the bunny looked the best, essentially, and then left the other 3 to use the reverse or B side of the paper for the back side of our cards. I've already gone ahead and glued all of those down, and let's get them put in our pocket. We get to revisit our project. Isn't it looking great? So you could probably call it done from this point. You don't have to add any more finishing touches, but again, like I said, you know me, I can't help myself. And I got these beautiful bronze charms with my order from Scrap and Create because I ordered the complete paper collection. So I just snapped off the ring on the bee and added that to the cover. And then I'm opening up these really small metal protective corners. I really kind of messed up enlarging this one, making it kind of warped and weird, but once I clamp it down onto the book, it will look great. I think that will really bring out the bronze tones of the other charms that I plan to go back and add wherever I can. Wherever there's a bow or something tied on and it looks good, I'll be adding charms. I'll also be using my crocodile to punch the hole in the cover. Let's get that going now. I just eyeball the approximate center and using my larger hole punch of the crocodile, I punch that in, and then I need to reset my tool because I'd been using the tiny ones. And then set it with my eyelet setting tool. If you have a different tool, use what you have. You also don't necessarily need a closure. And then there's definitely room for the 20 photos in here. A lot of times scrapbook albums, some of the ones that I make, don't have room when they're all done to add photos. They're already full. And this time I made sure there will be room for the 20 photos and it will sit perfect. It won't be a gator mouth and it won't be too narrow. Another thing I think was great with this spring paper collection are these tiny little paper flowers that I get from Hobby Lobby. It's the craft store that's closest to me, and there's something that I pick up when I go in person. I have a hard time finding these online. I order all of the stuff online that I can because I'm a super impulse buyer. They love me, because I get very impulsive. I also like to stock up on the things that I need from there when I do go in, so as to try to avoid, more. I just maybe once or twice a year go inside the Hobby Lobby, and the rest of the time just order stuff online. I have doubled up some lace and seam binding together because I wanted a really big fluffy bow. I thought that looked nice. I also used a bulb clip to add 2 of the charms to the front cover, where you can they just go right on the clip. You clip the bulb pin onto the cover and voila, you have charms with no effort at all. And then I used jump rings to add the charms elsewhere. Let's add some more paper flowers inside. I use this little organizer, probably from Hobby Lobby. Then I'm adding some dots of glue where I intend to put more little paper flowers. Just going through and adding them where I think they look good or where I'd already put them in the first project. I think in the first project I used Dresden trim to decorate this because I had some laying out, the scraps that were just laying out ready to be used. So I used those last time. This time I used more flowers. We'll add some flowers to this page, of course. Our flip up, we want that to be fabulous, even more fabulous. All right. Well, I don't want to bore you with this. Let me know. Did you want to see this where I go through and add all the tiny little flowers and stuff? Or would you rather I just cut to the end? I know my glue is really starting to give out. Well, I think this video is so long. We're almost at an hour. I'm going to cut to the end where we look at it and compare it with our sample project. Let's take a look at our completed album and compare it to the sample. Let's see how did we do. What do you think about the added bronze embellishments and charms on our project? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this tutorial, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more crafting inspiration. Thanks for crafting with me today. And let's finish. We'll first go through our project and take a look at all of the details, and then we'll go back and quickly kind of flip through and compare it to our inspiration project and see how we did. The butterfly charm I added to that page. And here's the pocket page card. Page 2, I added a charm to that card, a bee charm. And I also added a rose embellishment there. I just snapped off the ring. And I added a bunny charm to this card that goes under the belly band on page 3. And there's our page pocket card. They all look the same, just ready and waiting for photos on the front. And it has a light colored pattern. You could put a photo or you could write on the back. Again, we glued that down like a belly band, our little stamps, so you could glue something under there you wanted. I added some metal embellishments to the flip up. Then here's our little card made out of a scrap of manila. I'm sorry for the bumping noises with the mic that are always in my videos. I'm a fidgety person and I can't sit still while I'm doing these. I also added a butterfly die cut to the arrangement that was on there. And this is open-ended, so you could get a photo glued under there. And there you have it, our very own mini album, all finished and ready to showcase your memories. I hope you had as much fun as I did bringing this project to life with the gorgeous Spring is in the Air paper from Graphic 45. Let's take a look at our completed project and compare it to the sample. How do you think we did? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this tutorial, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more crafting inspiration. Thanks for crafting with me today, and I'll see you in the next video. As always, thank you for watching, and please have a wonderful day.